All right, so I believe we're going live to YouTube now with this this session, and we will also hit record to the cloud, so that you guys get the stream going. Okay, wonderful. So let's get this happening. So we've got Kathleen in the chat says not yet, and that's totally fine. I mean, I actually only read this book. I think it was in November last year was when I got the idea for this challenge, because I read it and I was like, this book is so cool because it's very, very visual, and it's got such a great message as far as showing your work and getting out there in front of more people. And I just think it's particularly relevant for herbalists because so many of us are doing really cool things, but don't really put it out there. We keep our little secret recipes to ourselves, and often it's actually a lot more effective to actually share it with more people and get your work out there. And it also starts to share the message wider with the general community as well, which like props up herbalism as a profession on the whole as well. So yeah, this is going to be hopefully a pretty fun session. What I've actually done is I went through the entire book and I took photos of like the important pages, and I've got a slideshow to share, which is basically just pictures of the cool pages of the book, because I thought it would be a little bit clearer for you to see what's kind of going on there as well. So that's what we're going to be doing. Now I think we are, all right, good. We're good to go. All right, so I will wait until the hour to actually start the session. But for those of you who are on here today, let's find out a little bit about you. Okay, so I've got a couple of questions for us to start off with. First of all, I would like to know at what stage of business you are at. So you can either say like just getting started, or you have an established herbal business, or you're already at the stage of like really growth and marketing and sharing your work as it is. Like, where are you currently at? I would really like to get a bit of a picture of kind of your level so that we can tailor the content today as well. So let me know in the chat. Yeah, so you can either say beginner, intermediate, or advanced. Okay, so Annika is 3rd year in business. That's a great stage to be because you would kind of already have some momentum worked up over this time, and now it's ready to kind of get it out there into the world a little bit to a larger extent. And so Athena is taking community herbalist program currently. Renee just obtained her LLC. That's an exciting thing to do. And so Jo's in her 1st year of business. Carla's in the growth stage in business full-time for about 18 months. So you probably started just at the beginning of the pandemic, or halfway through, I guess, or kind of when it started. We've been in this pandemic for a while now. And so, yeah, definitely in the growth stage. So this one will be particularly relevant for you. But we'll get into this later as well, as far as like, no matter what stage you're at, it is so important to share. Like, it doesn't matter if you're wrong, if you are learning as you go, sharing your mistakes is actually really valuable. So no matter where you're at, you really can start to share what you're doing as an herbalist. So Gloria is moving into her 6th year of business. Wonderful. That's really starting to establish the base of your business there. And Kimberly already has a farm, been in business for years, but just getting established in the herbalism business aspect. That's a really common theme as well for a lot of people in the herbal entrepreneur audience, as far as like trying one thing and doing that and adding this other branch to your business and that sort of thing, so that we're always learning, always kind of improving, I guess. And that is so it's a nice thing that we can do as herbalists, I think. Okay, great. This chat is very active. I can barely keep up, which is a good thing, guys. Let's keep this going. And so Vicky has been an herbalist for over a decade, but not in business yet, mostly helping friends and family and teaching. And that is also where a lot of us start from. And it's great to hear that you are already sharing your work with your family and friends. So even if you're not getting online and sharing things in a website or something in that realm yet, even sharing your products with your family and friends, that's what this is all about. Getting your work into the hands of other people so they can try it. You can get feedback and then you share more. That's where it all comes into it. So even if you haven't started the actual business part yet, you've definitely been doing the learning behind the scenes, which is really cool. So Luann is part-time since 2016 and in business for 4 years, but nothing accomplished last year. And wonderful. All right, let's get started. For those of you who just popped in now, I have got a slideshow prepared with photos of inside this book. This is the book that we are going to be focusing on today, which is Show Your Work by Austin Kleon. He actually has a series of, I think there's 3 books. There is Steal Like an Artist, Show Your Work, and another one that I can't remember the name of. But this is the one that I personally think is particularly relevant for herbalists as far as the sharing about your work and getting what you do out there is often a really big stumbling block for herbalists. And that's why we're going to be breaking down what's inside this book today. So let's get started. I've got it all prepared over here. And all right. Cool, let's do this. So can you see my screen, first of all? Can I get some nods or some thumbs up? Oh, yes. Awesome. Good, good, good. All right. So this is the masterclass on Show Your Work and Share Herbalism. Hashtag Share Herbalism. So this is all about sharing behind the scenes of what you do as an herbalist to increase the impact of your work. I'm going to take that away. So again, we're using this book here by Austin Kleon as our inspiration. And we're going to be talking about the processes that he used. Or he has like 10-step kind of journey that he uses to share your work. And his audience is primarily artists, but it's very much relevant for herbalists who are kind of artists in a way. And it's all about attracting new customers or building relationships with existing customers with your brand. So first of all, I just wanted to touch on why we're kind of doing this. And as I'm sure you're aware, the social media feeds and the world in general today is filled with so much busyness. And the issue that we have is actually the problem of how to get oneself noticed. There's this sea of information, everyone's vying for attention. And how can you be the one that people go, and how can your business stand out from the rest and really attract those customers that you want to form a part of your brand, those clients, the people that you want to ultimately help. And that is what we're going to be talking about today. So like I mentioned before, there's 10 steps in this process. And the first one is one to kind of relax you a little bit, let you take that deep breath, because the good news here is that you do not have to be a genius. This is something that holds a lot of people back because they feel like they have to be an expert herbalist, someone who's been studying for 30 years before they share. But you actually don't. It is useful and you should share your journey as you go because that's what it's all about. So it's important because, hang on, I just want to check here. Okay, here we are. The sharing your ideas, like kind of it's one thing happens after the other. And so you might share something and then someone else shares something else to build on that. And this is actually what is called a syneus, okay? And so if you, so basically great ideas are often birthed by a group of creative individuals who make up an ecology of talent. So this might be you share an idea about a plant and then someone else has a discussion about another use for that plant, and then someone else talks about an oil that goes well with that plant or something like that. But the chain reaction goes as you create something, and that is where there's that network. And you don't have to be a genius, because as we come together as a group, as we start to share collectively, we create something really great. So basically, give whatever you have, and to someone, it may be better than you dare to think, okay? So this is especially true if you've been studying or practicing as an herbalist for a long time. What you consider as really basic isn't basic to someone else. So share it and see what comes of it. And so, like I mentioned before, everyone has the ability to contribute something. So whether you are just getting started out with your business or you've been in the field for like 10 years or more, you do have a unique skill set and something that you can offer. It may even be your observations about the seasons, the plants that you have around you. It may be something like that, but it's you have something to contribute, your unique perspective. And your unique perspective can help someone else develop their ideas and ultimately create something wonderful together. So it's that network idea. Also in the book, it's such a lovely idea of being an amateur. So that's all any of us really are, amateurs. We don't live long enough to become anything else. And I mean, I like to think that we do become more experts in the field of herbalism the more we study, but it is really important to pursue what you do in the spirit of love. Okay, so I might read it from the book actually. Let's see if we can find this. So Kleon says, we're all terrified of being revealed as amateurs, but in fact, today it is the amateur, the enthusiast who pursues her work in the spirit of love. In French, the word actually means lover, regardless of potential for fame, money, or career, who often has the advantage over the professional. And this is actually because they don't have anything to lose. If you come at it from a perspective of an amateur, you have less to lose and you're willing to try. And that's where it's easier to share in that way. And so it can actually be helpful to think of yourself as an amateur or someone who's learning as you go. I personally find this very useful in what I share as an herbalist and for Herbal Entrepreneur. I definitely come at it from the perspective of being an amateur and connecting with other people who I feel have better expertise than I have, and just being able to share what they do as well. So it's like sharing their ideas. And so when we are sharing, it's important to talk about the things you love. And as you do this, you will start to develop your voice. Okay, so this is your unique, what you share, how you interact with your plants, what your take on herbalism is, and you will start to develop that voice or that brand for what you do as well. So this is where you can share about what you find interesting, basically, what you are working on. And it's quite possible that you do this in person already. I'm not sure about you, but give me a yes in the comments if you have had a family member tell you to stop naming the plants as you go for a walk. I most certainly have, because when I've been learning about the botanical names and things, I want to share it with people, and I start to tell them about what we're seeing as we go. And that's because I have that love for the plants and what's going on around me. And then, but that's part of it. It's sharing with the people in person. And it can also be, which we're going to get to in a moment, with a wider audience online or in community events as well. So yeah, find your voice, shout it from the rooftops, and keep doing it until the people that are looking for you find you. basically, also I wanted to mention, as far as the slide before, I'm just going to slip back to it quickly. So for the artist, the great problem to solve is how to get oneself noticed. It's really about being there and getting your work out there, because when you do show your work, that is when people are going to start noticing you. And so you need to get yourself out there before you can be noticed. I just wanted to make sure that was clear. All right. So here are a few examples of things that you could be sharing. So it could be whatever it is that you want to be sharing, the things that you get joy out of as a part of what you do. And often it can actually be the slightly mundane things, making yourself a cup of tea. It might be even a very repetitive task or a slow task that you might actually get a little bit bored doing as an herbalist. So maybe it might be garbling the herbs or something like that takes a long time, or picking flowers, those sort of things. But sharing that behind the scenes process for someone who doesn't do that is really interesting, seeing how that happens and how it all comes together. It's very, very interesting to show that process. So show whatever it is you're enjoying, your process behind the scenes, and whatever it is you're doing, no matter what stage of your journey you're at. Okay. So step number one was, you do not have to be a genius. We can get that out of the way. At whatever stage of business you're at, you can share about what you're doing. Number two is to think process, not product. So we want to pull back the curtain on your process. And the reason for this is because the final image of your product doesn't tell the full story. Like if you think about a herbal product or herbal consultation, or even whatever you offer as an herbalist, that final product doesn't tell the whole story of all the work behind the scenes that goes into making that product. Especially for artisan herbalists who really do put the time and energy into making their products as high quality as possible, the final product isn't enough. The process behind the scenes of how you go about doing that, how you pick the flowers, how you infuse it, how you let it sit for the time it needs to take the energy of the plant, how you compost the materials after having extracted the plant materials into your products. Like all of that process behind the scenes, it goes to show a story as to your brand and how you operate. And that is what people connect to. So these are examples of what you can show in your process. And once again, these things can seem really, really small, but they can be really interesting from a customer perspective, looking in at you because they don't know what you're doing necessarily. So it might be preparing the soil, picking the plants, cutting things up, garbling, drying things out, storing your herbs. The process, mixing, whatever it is that you're doing. This is where the process shots are really beautiful. And I'm quite sure you've seen some of these things on Instagram or similar platforms before, where even like a short video, an Instagram reel of like someone mixing up the herbs to make a tea blend, for example. That is such a simple action, like it's mixing a bowl of herbs, but it looks so beautiful. And just the way it's done with care, when those videos are done nicely, it looks it looks beautiful. It makes you want to have those herbs and try it out. And so that's the sort of process shot that we are looking at. But it can also be, so it depends on what type of herbalist you're doing. But like if you can show you're studying, what book you're reading, what courses you're studying. It really can be anything, whatever your work you're working on. And it's important to note here that process is messy. Sometimes you make mistakes. And You may even be able to share those mistakes. So if something went wrong, you could share about that and let people in on the process, that journey that you go to make that make your products. And just knowing that it is messy, it makes the whole journey and the customer involvement in your brand come alive. So basically, you want to become a documentarian of what you do. And this is important because in order for connection to happen, we have to allow ourselves to be seen, really seen. This is a nice quote from Brené Brown about being authentic, being real, and letting it all, not all, but letting what you want to be seen, and just showing behind the scenes of what's going on is interesting for people, but really builds connection. And connection is what goes on to make loyal customers as well. So that's what we want to be happening here. So here are a couple of examples of things that you might be able to share as a part of your work and what you're doing. So it might be research. Maybe you have like some notes scribbled down in your Materia Medica about herbs, or even some hypothesis that maybe you want to test out what the effect of this herb is, or something like that. It might be a reference, something that you've read interesting in another book, sharing that, something that's made an impact on you. Drawings, maybe you went out and drew a picture of a flower to put in your Materia Medica, or maybe whatever it is. But sharing that along the way, even the unfinished things are really interesting for people to see how it goes. Plans for the future. So you might have sketched out what you want to happen, what your ideas are, things like that as well. It might be interviews, audio, photographs, video, pinboards. Like there are so many different things that you can share. Journals and drafts, prototypes, demos. So this is where, like, again, even unfinished Materia Medica entries could be a good thing here. Also, like products that you're formulating, testing out, diagrams, notes, inspiration, scrapbooks, stories, and collections. So it might be your herbal collection inside your apothecary. All of this sort of thing is really interesting to share. So at this point, let's have a little bit of a brainstorm in the chat. Are people getting ideas of things that they might be able to share as a part of the process of what you're working on? So if you have some ideas, please do write that in the chat, because then we're going to start getting our ideas happening. And this is also a part of the process. If we share now what our ideas are, then we can build on those ideas and share amongst ourselves as well. So please do share. If you have ideas of specific things that you could share as a part of the process, write that in the chat. All right. Oops. So the third key in this book is to share something small every day. All right. Now, before we get into this, I'm just getting a lot in the chat now, so I do want to share some of the ideas for those of you who are watching the replay. So Yamea is saying plants growing, harvesting photos. Sarah said postcards or brochures. Luan said putting new products together yesterday. I should have videoed the process. Yes, you could have, Luan. That would have been a great idea, but it's okay. There's still time to do that. We can, you'll have another opportunity. But Annika said, I like the idea of a photo of my apothecary cabinet. Jaisa said some of the things that didn't work. Yes, that's great. All of those processes. And Athena already shares a lot on my blog, but the idea of sharing incomplete stuff is new. And that's great. I'm glad to hear that you already share stuff, Athena. That's wonderful. And it's also really great to hear that you have an actual blog, because I think it's nice to have your little space carved out on the internet. Kathleen, a photo show of making tinctures. Sarah, posts of herbs and garden. Lauren is, she did a reel today about a tea she made yesterday. So she's already getting started. This is awesome. Yvette is a collection of natural materials, stones, pine cones, berries, wood, found on daily nature walks. Vicky, wanting to have apprenticeships on my farm and have it be a learning farm. So Vicky, a really great idea would be like getting a blank piece of paper and sketching out your ideas of how you want your learning farm to be evolved and sharing that. And then you might actually find that apprentices are like, oh, that idea looks really cool, and they reach out and contact you as well. So things like that can be really beneficial. Kimberly says she already has a nice herbal garden and wants to develop a herbal sanctuary and give tours and provide community education. So showing the plantings, cultivating, harvesting, and drying. That sounds wonderful. And like, again, sharing your process of the planning, your dream, and what you want it to become. All of this you can share as you go. And so Carla loves the idea of sharing behind the scenes stuff. I'm formulating a new product now and already have a bunch of post ideas. Also, this is an absolutely wonderful idea in terms of marketing to share the process, because it means you're giving your potential customers the idea that the product is coming before it even comes out. And you'll see that bigger brands do this intentionally. They will drop hints about something about to be released before it's about to be released, and before it is actually released. And doing that by sharing as you create something, you kind of bake that marketing into your messaging as you go. Great, let's keep moving. So we've got the third key is to share something small every day. So this is really around being consistent about it. So even if it's something really small, think about something that you did today according to your work, in your work, and share it. And that's a pretty big a commitment to do it every day. And so you might find it's not every day all the time, but when you're working, if there's something considerable to share, yeah, so that's what Jennifer said, that feels overwhelming. And that's fair enough, okay? And you'll find also, we'll get to this in the book, it comes later, it's fine to take a break as well. So it's not that every day for the rest of your life you have to share something. That's not the key here. The key is to look for small things in your day that you can share, okay? So don't feel like you must share something every day, even though it is good to work in seasons. I really strongly believe in seasons, and it can be helpful to share when you're in that process of creation, when you're really kind of immersed in your work. Sharing it then is really helpful. And then you can take periods of rest, and that's totally fine. You don't have to share anything during that time. And yeah, Yamea has a really great photo as well. You can take a bunch of photos at once and share them over the course of several days. That's very easy in terms of social media and things like that. And yeah, so Jennifer said kind of like authors, when they're sharing, they have a new book coming soon. Exactly. So you might actually keep a bank of stuff that you're working on, and keep photos, like take pictures when you do work, and then share them out when it makes sense to, like when you're about to launch what you're working on as well. All right, so let's get into this. So Bobby Solomon quote is, put yourself and your work out there every day and you'll start meeting some amazing people. So this is around, yeah, when you do put yourself out there, you are putting yourself on a platform that people are going to notice, and you'll meet people and those connections can start to come alive. And this is where like the compound effect starts to come into play. So like one day is one tiny little thing, but over a month, it's like this big shape that comes. And over a year, it's like you look back and wow, look at what I've created. It kind of becomes something a lot more impressive and incredible when it is done for a long period of time. And this is especially when you're showing that process and progress, because you'll start to see what sort of mistakes you had at the beginning and those lessons and how they kind of evolve into what you're doing now, all of these days later. And so it's just about it one step after the other. And this is also just around a lot of the things that you do and are not going to be any good. And so also this color is supposed to be this color, by the way. I'm not sure if you can see very well in the picture that I took. But the idea of this is that most of what you're going to do, it's not going to be very good. And so an example of this, it might be, for those of you who have experimented with making your own formulas of teas or tinctures, that sort of thing, a lot of the things are going to be mistakes, and a lot of them are not going to actually be exactly how you want to be. But there is a small section of the pie that is actually really good. And so it's just learning to realize that there is a lot of not good stuff that's a part of what you do, but that's part of the process. And sharing even the stuff that's not so good does involve people on that journey as you go. So it's good to take one day at a time. It sounds so simple. It is actually simple, but it isn't easy. It requires incredible support and fastidious structuring. And this is true, especially if you have lots of other commitments. I can relate to that. And so a big question is, and this comes back as well to this, this graph as well, as far as there's a lot of stuff that's not so good. And should we be sharing that? We have the so what test. I just need to take a drink of water, just a moment. So, and I did mention this before, you don't have to share everything because not everything is good, but you can choose what you want to share. And this is where the best thing to show when you are, and this was relating to your work as an herbalist, is the work. And this is what you're actually doing. So it's not just random stuff, but your creations, what you're working on, what you are doing as an herbalist. So whether it's getting out there and working in the garden on your farm, whether it's harvesting the plants, whether it's drying out, all of this stuff that relates to what you actually do as an herbalist, that is the stuff that's going to attract the right people. That is then going to build your community and your brand as a whole. So that's what you want to be sharing. And we had some great examples of that in the chat already as well earlier. This is the so what slide. I just had a request to show this one. The so what test. So make no mistake, this is not your diary. You are not letting it all hang out. You are picking and choosing every single word. All right. So there's a nice little diagram about should you share something in mind. So you've got an idea, you're not sure if it's in the useful category or not. So that is the first question actually. Is it useful or interesting? That is the disclaimer. That's what the qualifier is. It needs to be either useful or interesting. So yes, if it is useful or interesting for your customers, do share it. If it's not, toss it and don't use it. If you're not sure, put it into the maybe pile and save it for later. All right. So basically we want to be turning your flow into stock. Okay. So if you work on something a little bit every day, you end up with something that is massive. So this is where we have your flow is you're working as you go. You've got all of these pieces that kind of are there. They're in your mind, they're in your office, your apothecary, but they don't fit together into a cohesive order yet. And so as you keep on working on it as part of that process, it becomes something a lot more ordered and closer to that final product. And so this is, again, what we were talking about. I think it was Athena who had the blog that she already shares some of her stuff about. So this is where she's actually building a good domain name. So it is a really good idea to carve out a space for yourself online, somewhere where you can express yourself and share your work. It's still one of the best possible investments you can make with your time. And so this is just your own space. That's why a blog is nice, because you completely own it and you can do with it what you want. But an easier place to start that most people do start is somewhere on social media or something like that. So Instagram, Facebook, it might even be Pinterest, or it could be a YouTube, a vlog, or something like that. It doesn't matter how you share. It matters much more sharing something. But I would recommend creating a website for yourself at no matter what stage of your business you are at, especially because it doesn't have to be expensive. You can buy like a shared hosting, and it's like honestly a few dollars a month, and you're building out a space for yourself to share your work and showcase what you can offer. I just think it's a very good investment in yourself. So I would definitely recommend doing that. And then, yeah, the more often you share, the more credibility you build for yourself as well. Also, just an aside here, which is not related to this book, but when I first got started working online, I created a blog, and I wrote like 3 blog posts to show that I could write interesting blog posts. And then I started reaching out to people to become a freelance writer. And I just linked back to those 3 posts that I wrote as an example. But it made me look professional, just because if I had a place, even if I only had 3 posts on it, it was enough for them to look through and see my my book. So also, maybe I'm not clear here, but what are some domains you recommend? Domain is like a domain name, a website. So basically make a website is the idea here, or a blog. You can choose any name you want. All right, so moving on to number 4, open up your cabinet of curiosities. I personally love this one because I definitely feel like most herbalists have a wonderful cabinet of curiosities, which would be your herbal apothecary cabinet. And opening that up and sharing it with people is so interesting, and they really love to see it. So we don't want to be hoarders. The problem with hoarding is that you end up living off your reserves. Eventually, you'll become stale. If you give away everything you have, you are left with nothing. This forces you to look, to be aware, to replenish. Somehow, the more you give away, the more comes back to you. And this is so true for herbalists, as far as like we harvest things, we have all these things in our cupboard, but the more we give away to people, the more products we are able to sell, move the shelves over, or give them away in the beginning if you're in that sharing phase of testing out your products. It is just so important to keep it moving through. This is about the energy as well. Don't hold on to those things, also because they don't last forever. So being able to give away and just see how it comes back to you, and then you have more space in your cupboard for new things to experiment and that sort of stuff as well. So Joanna is an information hoarder, that's for sure. I know a lot of people love to learn new things in courses and stuff like that, but then if you share that information, it becomes so much richer, and all of that as well. Great. And so there are no guilty pleasures. I don't believe in guilty pleasures. If you like something, like it. Okay. And so this is where you can share whatever it is. Like, don't keep it for yourself. Don't be guilty about liking it. Just put it out there. You like it. It's fine. And it's also really important when it comes to your cabinet of curiosities, to focus on what you do best and be in connection with who else maybe does something better than you do. And so this is where you link to it. You do the right attribution so that other people are shared as well. And this comes back to that network thing of you share something, someone else shares something else, but you link to each other, and all as a whole kind of come out better for it. And so if you find something nice, share it. Just make sure you do the correct attribution so that everyone knows where it came from. But that also helps to build the network. And I think this is, like, again, especially relevant for herbalists because there are so many different pathways, like whether you grow the herbs, whether you make products, whether you sell the products, whether you teach about herbs, or whether you practice as a clinical herbalist. There are many different things that you can do, but those different pathways are interconnected. And if we share our own expertise, we can help each other and learn on this process as well. Great. All right. So number 5 is tell good stories. So this is about in the way that you actually present what you're doing. Being able to tell it in a way that's fun and interesting really helps to connect with people once again and bring them on board as a part of your business. So, and this is what I was talking about before as well, as the work doesn't speak for itself. So again, think about that final product that you have of a tincture bottle, for example. When you just see that picture, someone doesn't see all of the work that goes into harvesting the herbs, infusing it into the tincture, then draining it out, and all of the process to make the tincture. And then also the bottling, making the label, the design of your logo, like all of these little tiny details. That final picture of the product doesn't show any of that. But if you show them, bring them along for that journey, tell them the story, how you're coming up with the concept of your brand as a whole, then you take them behind the scenes. And that's the stuff that people find interesting. And again, so this is just a visual representation that's from inside the book, that pictures can say whatever we want them to say. So this is like, yeah, there's 6 triangles here, but it can be so many different things. It might be a wizard hat. It might be a shark fin. It might be a mound of dirt. It might be a teepee. It might be anything. And so that's where you telling the story that goes along with that picture makes it come alive, and again increases that connection. Okay, so the structure is everything. So this is where so in the quote it says, in the first act you get your hero up a tree, the second act you throw rocks at him, for the third act you let him down. So there's different parts to your story that come together as part of the show. And so this could be really nice to show how you make a product, for example. You might, and if it's a product that takes a long time to make, because I know a lot of herbal products may take like 6 weeks to make in total, you might take photos as you go along, videos or things like that, and save them in a file somewhere, and then release them all together, so that or you could do it separately as well, but it's nice for someone to see that progression and remember what's going as well. So you could do that over a course of a day to kind of show that structure of how it goes. So again, this is going into more detail about how a story works. So it's basically about a character being in their comfort zone, they want something, and then they go to like a different situation, they adapt to it, and then they get what they wanted, and then something bad happens, and then they're back to the start basically again, but with a new perspective. And so that's where you could talk about as well, if you use this kind of structure as a part of how you go about making a product, a formulation, maybe it's your plan for what you want to grow this season, whatever it is, your story, what you're working on, kind of, you can make it, you can give it some flourish and make it come alive like that. Also, here's just a nice little tip that I wanted to highlight here. So don't be afraid to talk about yourself at parties. So when you see people in person, talk about what you're doing and that sort of thing. It's actually, people find it really interesting when you're passionate about something. And I would say that most herbalists are pretty passionate about what they do. And people can pick up on that. And so if you talk about what you're working on rather than what the weather's like, people are going to be interested in what you're doing, and you're sharing. Again, it's just all part of that one after the other type thing. All right, so here we have number 6 is teach what you know. So the impulse to keep to yourself what you have learned is not only shameful, it is destructive. Anything you do not give freely and abundantly becomes lost to you. You open your safe and find ashes. So this is where, like, why? Why would you keep it all to yourself when you can share it with other people and then it can take new life on with them? And so just the more you share, the more impact your ideas are going to have. And you can see how this is, like when someone publishes an herbal book, for example, that gets into the hands of more people, they learn from that, they take inspiration from that, and they use those ideas to create their own take on it. And it then continues like that. But like, you don't want it to stop with you. You want that chain to continue and to grow into something even better. So just continuously sharing each other, we're going to kind of inspire each other and help each other to reach greater heights as we go. All right, so number 7 is to don't turn into human spam. So I would hazard to guess that most people have experienced this from the consumer perspective, as far as you've seen other people share too much, and it just gets a bit of a spammy feel because there's so much going on. All right, now I think we've got okay, no, it's okay. All right. All right. Also, so here's a really good point. In the chat, someone's mentioned that it's actually really difficult to share because in the past they've had bad experiences with people taking ideas. This is pretty tricky, but it does depend on what you do and what your audience is. But like, I really do feel like there's an abundance of good ideas and opportunities, and there is people who are looking for what you do. And I ultimately think the more you share, the better. It is, I know there are some instances where it can be difficult and you do need to keep things behind the scenes before you share it, in terms of competition and stuff. But in general, I really do think it's beneficial. And also, if you're sharing publicly, if someone else does something after you, then it's kind of obvious that they took from your idea anyway. But that's where it comes from, attribution, just from being a good person. I would hope that everyone does attribute ideas, but it's about working together, not in competition with each other. So in terms of like how to share without being spammy, the most important thing is to listen to people and work out what they actually want to know about, okay? So you can ask questions and find out what people want to know about. So if people know that you are listening to them, they're going to tell you things, and you will start to know more about it and be more able to share the right things intuitively. So basically just shut up and listen, and share what your audience is interested in, what they're going to find useful and interesting, back of that decision matrix that we shared earlier. So this is the continuum from hoarder to spammer, okay? So we want to be somewhere in the middle of here. We don't want to keep everything to ourselves. We don't want to share everything and spam, spam, spam. We want to be this contributor in the middle, sharing the right amount of stuff and what people do find interesting. So what you want is to follow and be followed by human beings who care about the issues you care about. This thing we make together. This thing is about hearts and minds, not eyeballs. So ultimately, you want hearts, not eyeballs. This is so, so, so important in the world that we live in, of like online followers and numbers and metrics and all of this sort of thing, because it's not about that. It's about the actual connections that you build and the impact that you have. So really, in your messaging, think about how you help someone, how that impacts their life, rather than who's going to like it, how many follows you're going to get. It's more about the people. It's also good to think about how it affects you. So does what you're sharing excite you, or does it drain you? So if it's something that makes you happy, it brings you, it makes you feel alive, share it, do it. If you're not enjoying it, like, stop it. It's not the right thing for you to be doing. It's not the right thing for you to focus your energy on. And so, like, pay attention to how you're feeling. This is just being aware of how you're feeling when you're doing different things, so that you can, like, make some tweaks and focus on the right things. Okay, so part of the act of creating is in discovering your own kind. They are everywhere, but don't look for them in the wrong places. When you pin your kind, you get your team. So this is again about, like, the more you share, the more people are going to understand what you're about and what kind of values and what drives you and your work as an herbalist. And as a result of that, you're going to, like, the right people are going to be attracted to what you do. So this is just, it just happens organically. As you share, the people who are interested in what you share are going to be drawn towards you. So as long as you're sharing that behind the scenes stuff that they do find interesting, you're going to be creating your team and connecting with them as you go. It's also really effective to share not just online, but also in person. It depends where you are at the moment in the world, whether you're able to do this, but being in person, nothing does substitute that face-to-face contact. And so this can be as simple as getting out there to, like, a market event. Maybe it's sharing your work at a community event, some sort of public workshop, that sort of thing, or like at parties that or other places that you see people, like we mentioned before, just sharing about what you're doing. Okay, number 8, and this is important for the final 2 steps, is to learn to take a punch. So it's not going to be all, especially if you do start sharing more, some of the stuff you share might not even be right. And you might figure out later that it was a mistake, or you wasn't quite as it should have been. And so you kind of have to take that criticism and, like, learn to grow from it, or learn that those people are not your people, depending on what the criticism is. So this quote's a nice one. I ain't going to give up. Every time you think I'm one place, I'm going to show up someplace else. I come pre-hated. Take your best shot. And so this is around, like, if you're sharing something that people are saying that it's not true, or bringing you down, what you have to share. It's kind of saying it doesn't matter. This is who I am. This is what I have to share, and being confident in that, taking your stance and doing it. This is also especially important in today's world, because a lot of herbalists do come up against a lot of resistance in sharing our work and our beliefs, and it may not always be mainstream. And so we may get some resistance against what we do and how we go about certain things, and just standing firm in that and, like, becoming stronger, basically. So a couple of techniques that can help you is to breathe and relax, keep your balance, roll with the punches, protect your vulnerable areas, and strengthen your neck. So it's really just around becoming more comfortable with maybe people not liking you. That can be pretty tricky for a lot of people who are want to please people, and but being able to just accept that what you're, like, even the fact that you're getting out there and sharing is better than someone who's not sharing. So it's quite possible that someone who's just negative and bringing you down, they have never had the courage to actually put themselves out there. So at least you're doing that. But it is important as well to be humble. So if you make a mistake, own it, admit it, and then move on as well. The trick is not caring about what everyone thinks of you, and just caring about what the right people think of you. So again, knowing your audience and not really being bothered about people who are not your audience think. It's only the people that you are there to serve that you really need to be sharing for. Now, we had I request to see the Cyndi Lauper quote again. So this quote was, "I ain't going to give up. Every time you think I'm one place, I'm going to show up someplace else. I come pre-hated. Take your best shot." Okay. We've already done this one. So the 9th step is to sell out. Okay. This comes with a lot of fear for a lot of people, I think, as far as actually asking to be paid for your work that you do. But this is actually an important part of the process as well. You're showing behind the scenes, and you also deserve to be compensated for your work and your artistry and what you do as an herbalist. And so you want to sell out. You want to put up that sold out sign and make room for more experiments and discoveries as well. So pass around the hat. I'd love to sell out completely. It's just that nobody has been willing to buy, John Waters' quote. But really, it's not around, you need to give people the opportunity to buy. So pass around that hat and allow them to become a customer. And I love this quote from Walt Disney. Again, I think it's especially relevant for herbalists. We don't make movies to make money. We make money to make more movies. And so, like, I definitely think this is true. Like, we don't make herbal products to make money. We make money so that we can make more herbal products. It's more around, like, we enjoy working with the herbs. We want to be doing that. And the money helps that wheel go round. Okay, so let's keep this going. Above all, recognize that if you have had success, you have also had luck. And with luck comes obligation. You owe a debt, not just to your gods, you owe a debt to the unlucky. So you might not actually realize you're in luck. So it might be the fact that you have had the privilege of education. You've had the privilege of growing up in a family that taught you about herbs. Maybe you have the privilege of time to experiment and study and this sort of thing. This is not, it's luck that you're in this position. And as a result of this, we have this obligation to share and help other people who may not have had that opportunity that you have. So sharing what you have learned and what you are currently working on is a way of giving back to other people and ultimately the world. And so finally, stick around. Just keep going. We work because it's a chain reaction. Each subject leads to the next. And so this is where we just keep on going and stick around at it. And we're going to start to create something big and wonderful. Again, this is what we were talking about earlier. One day after the next, you start to build something more wonderful. Also, we discussed this a little bit earlier as far as burning out if you're doing it too much and you feel like you don't want to share all the time. It's actually fine. You have permission to go away so that you come back. So this can help because when you have a break, sometimes it all just falls into place more easily. Maybe you go and take a break and then you get a great idea and it makes you want to come back, and it's because you took that break. Also, there's a funny quote, every 2 or 3 years, I knock off for a while. That way I'm constantly the new girl in the whole house. But so the idea around that quote is that you are more of a novelty. And so you don't have to share continuously all the time if it's kind of getting you down. Take a break. And even if it's for a couple of months, just to refresh, like get grounded, spend time in nature and work out your path. And then come back and share when you're ready to kind of serve once again. Because again, sharing is about getting out there and becoming noticed in that sea of activity that's happening. In the chat, we've got, if I slow down, I do a personal project. Matrix tries to keep me focused on biz and my clients come around. Yes, that's exactly true. So it's just, yeah, slowing down can actually be the best thing that you can do sometimes, or like a complete break. And I mentioned before, seasons are so important. Allow yourself to have that season of rest and that season of work and seasons of connections, or whatever the seasons are for you. But it doesn't have to be the same continuously. Also, rather than like starting from scratch each time, you can begin again, okay? And so you can work on, like, start from where you're already at and build on that. Also, an interesting quote here is, whenever Picasso learned how to do something, he abandoned it. And so I think people who have a lot of interest can relate to this, as far as the process of learning is often the most fun part. But that's where, if you share what you do as you go, you'll be able to have a record of it. Because I know a lot of people kind of follow one interest and do it for a while, and then lose a bit of interest and then follow something else for a while, but they don't really share as they go. And so all of those progress steps are kind of lost. Whereas if you share each step as you go, people are going to be, well, there's going to be a record of what you did rather than just floating around. Great. So to recap, these are the 10 things that we talked about today. So you do not have to be a genius. Think process, not product. Share something small every day. Open up your cabinet of curiosities. Tell good stories. Teach what you know. Don't turn into human spam. Learn to take a punch. Sell out and stick around. Now, here we have what now? So what now? We basically the key here, the next step, is to go online and post something you're working on right now with the hashtag show your work. And I would also like to add to this the hashtag share herbalism, because on this point number 2, if we see here, we've got a plan a show your work night with colleagues or friends, and use this book as a guide to share works in progress and your curiosities, tell stories, and teach one another. And this is where I got the idea of this challenge that we are going to be doing in February. So before I bring this up, are you ready to show your work and what you're doing as an herbalist? If you are, please tip yes in the chat. And yep, I'm getting lots of yeses. All right, awesome. Yes. Oh wow, this is cool. So many people are enjoying this. Yay. I really liked the book, so I'm glad that you guys are enjoying it too. Introducing the Share Herbalism Challenge. So basically, for those of you who don't know, I throughout the year, that's like separate from the Herbal Entrepreneur Conference, we have the Herbal Circle, which is a membership, a community that we have we have tea room sessions where we discuss about our herbal businesses and various events and resources and stuff like that throughout the year as well. But in February, we're going to be running the Share Herbalism Challenge. And so this is around, we have 28 days of encouraging posts to get your sharing. And then we are going to have special resources, but also rewards to keep you going. So this is like, if you share every single day something, you will have some sort of rewards and stuff like that as well. And basically, I decided to mix it up this time because in the past, I have only offered this as a part, anything of this kind as a part of the Herbal Circle. But I thought that it could be something that some people are just interested in the challenge rather than the Herbal Circle. But so there's 2 options that you can sign up for. So once again, this challenge is going to be running from the 1st of February until the 28th of February. So we've got a bit of time to prepare. And so this, again, you've got some time over the next 2 weeks or so. You could start taking some pictures and videos of what you're working on so that we can share it throughout February. And what we're going to be doing in February is we are going to be all as a group, everyone who wants to take part in this challenge, we're going to be sharing it however you want. Okay, so you can share on a blog, on YouTube, on Instagram, on Facebook, on Pinterest, on TikTok, on Snapchat, in person, at a community event, at a market, however you want to share, you can share it. And we're also going to have a group specifically for the challenge where you can show what you are sharing as well, so that we can kind of prop each other up, inspire each other. And yeah, that's the key here is we're going to be all sharing, and I'm hoping it's going to form a bit of a snowball effect, and we all share together. So that's what this challenge that's going to be happening in February is all about. I'm still working out the exact details as to how it's the back end of how it's going to work. But if you want to join, there are two options again. So the I might put these into the chat. Hang on a second. Yeah. I have to stop my sharing because otherwise I'm going to not have the link. Okay. So here we are. I'm going to put into the chat the two links if people. So basically, if you're already a member of the Herbal Circle, I know there are quite a few Herbal Circle members on here. If you're already a Herbal Circle member, don't worry, you've already got everything. You'll get everything that you need. If you're not a Herbal Circle member yet, you can become a Herbal Circle member by clicking on that link. And by the way, the Herbal Circle Herbal Circle is a flexible membership. So it's $37 per month, but it's honestly fine to join for 1 month if you want to try it out. And so you could take part in this whole challenge for $37 and then see how you like it, and then decide from there what you want to do next. So it's literally only $37 to take part in this challenge if you become a Herbal Circle member. And the other option is to sign up just for the challenge. Just for the challenge is a once-off fee of $67. And so you can decide if what's up for you. I mean, it probably makes more sense to sign up as an Herbal Circle member. That's in the past, that's the only option I've offered. But I did want to have another option this time, just in case someone was interested in just the challenge and isn't looking for ongoing support as a part of growing your herbal business. Also, just in case people are not aware, so the Herbal Circle, it's a decent size group. There's around 70 or so herbalists that are a part of this group, and there is an ongoing community. And then we have twice a month we have discussion calls where we all share what we're working on and updating on what we're doing, and kind of have a bit of a brainstorming mastermind type session. And then we have various other things like this. So this challenge is what's happening in February. And then there's also a members area where you have at this point, it's actually a massive resource library because you get access to all previous years of the conference. So there's like over 60 sessions of people of what they've shared from the 2019, 2020 and 2020 Herbal Entrepreneur Conference. And so that's like people like Rosemary Gladster, Margie Flint, Guido Massey, Marlene Adelman, Maria Noel Groves, Richard Check. There's so many people who have spoken at the Herbal Entrepreneur Conference, and you also get access to all of that in the Herbal Circle. But it's really just everything behind the scenes plus community. So that's the option I would recommend, but there is also just a challenge if you prefer. Now, if you have any questions, let me know in the chat. We do have a couple already, so I will check these out. So Stevie is saying, when will we get the info for the challenge so that we can plan accordingly? So yeah, the info for the challenge will come out pretty soon. This was kind of the announcement, and I would say by the end of this week in the Herbal Circle, or if you sign up for the challenge as well. So this week we'll start getting information for the challenge, but we do have a kickoff call on the 1st of February as a part of like how it goes. And also, I forgot to mention, because it is kind of exciting, on the last day of February, we're going to have an exhibition of the Sharing Your Work. So throughout the month, we're all going to be sharing what we're working on, the process shots. And then on the final day, we're going to do like a live webinar, kind of like this one, but rather than talking about the book, we're going to be talking about what we've actually shared throughout the month. So we'll be picking out the best posts and stories and stuff like that, and just putting it out there and celebrating the work of what people have done and all of that as well. Now, Kimberly's asking, is it only a very experienced group or is it some in beginnings or studies? There are beginners as well. It's open to everyone. It's not an application process, so anyone can join, and there are people who are just starting their business, but there are also members who have like an herbal farm for more than 10 years as well. So there is a range of people inside the herbal circle. I think that's kind of one of the good things about it, because there is that kind of mentorship idea. Also because, like I mentioned before, often people's paths cross. So you might be an expert in making herbal products, for example, but then you switch into teaching classes and it is a different field, and then you help each other. So you might be an expert in one specific area, but not another. But basically, it's open to everyone. Kimberly, I've been studying for a year and want to know if the herbal is too advanced for me to participate. No, it's not. It's honestly, that's fine. It's if you're at the, it's a great spot for you to be joining because you've got that base, and the herbal circle is supposed to be practical. So it's around like actually implementing what you're doing. So if you're ready to put it into practice and start to take steps, like it's around accountability and encouraging you to actually do something rather than just think about it. That's the my goal with it. And because it's like a nice size, there is that personal connection point as well. So yeah, if you turn up to the calls on the Herbal Circle, like I get to know the people in the Herbal Circle and I'm like personally invested in what you do. So that's why it's kind of fun. I like that, the small size of it. So Erin, when the time comes, we need a mentor in order to count towards the age. Okay, so no, this is not formal mentorship for the American Herbalist Guild. No. We can help you get into contact with people, but the formal mentorship hours for the American Herbalist Guild is, yeah, that's not included as a part of the Herbal Circle. But yeah, like Jennifer mentioned, the American Herbalist Guild actually has like a big list of mentors that you can look through and find one that complements your beliefs and the way you want to work as an herbalist as well. So I would, if you're looking for the AHG mentorship hours, I would recommend going to the AHG website because that's definitely the best spot there. Great. All right. So that's basically how that works. I hope that you've enjoyed today's session as far as like going through the book. I really would recommend buying this one, and also the Share Like an Artist is nice as well. But it's a nice book, but I have shared as much as I could in an hour session of for how to make it all happen. But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed it, and no matter what, this is also something that you can do on your own as well. It's really just about being inspired. So I hope that you will like take this idea and run with it as far as just sharing what you're doing and bringing people on that process journey with you. So yeah, if you want to do that alongside a group of people, the Herbal Circle is perfect to do that. And specifically now, because in February, we're going to be starting this challenge going on to show your work and hashtag share herbalism. Also, if you're in any case, keep an eye on that hashtag because hopefully it'll be trending in the next month or so once we will start sharing. So yeah, thank you again for turning up, and I hope you've had some fun in this session. I most certainly have. And I will see you on the next call or in the Herbal Circle, or yeah, or even at the exhibition at the end of February next month as well. Thank you all for the lovely comments. It sounds like, yeah, everyone has been enjoying it, which is exactly my goal. So thank you for coming on today, and hope to see you at future events or inside the Herbal Circle. Enjoy.